Filthy old pusher like you doesn't get to play innocent, Officer Cole Barrett snarled as he smacked Evelyn Carter's pharmacy bag from her hands, orange bottles skittering like contraband across polished tile. His boot came down hard, grinding her arthritis pills until the label blurred, her name disappearing under rubber. The sharp sting of crushed medication mixed with his overpowering cologne as Officer Trent Lawson jerked her thin arms higher. Metal cuffs bit into her papery skin. "Look at her!" Barrett barked at the stunned customers. "Acting like she's just here for prescriptions." Evelyn steadied herself, silent, cardigan sliding off one stooped shoulder, refusing to plead. Barrett, drunk on his own badge, had no idea the woman he was manhandling was the mother of a federal agent capable of dismantling his entire operation. Before we go on, drop your location in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe because tomorrow's episode is one you'll regret missing. Evelyn Carter's silver sedan eased into a faded parking space outside Greenwood Pharmacy, the same spot she'd favored for over 22 years. Morning sunlight stretched long across cracked asphalt as she gathered her purse and neatly folded prescription list. Her arthritic fingers fumbled with the door handle before she finally pushed it open and stepped carefully from the car. The familiar bell chimed when she entered, nodding toward Mrs. Ramirez behind the counter, who'd been filling prescriptions since Evelyn still taught third graders. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, washing the shelves in bright, slightly unforgiving white. "Good morning, Mrs. Carter," called Tyler, the young stock clerk, one of her last students before retirement. "Need a hand today?" "No, thank you, sweetheart," Evelyn replied warmly. "Just picking up my usual medicines and supplies." She walked down the center aisle, sensible shoes tapping softly against linoleum. The ache in her hip flared again, turning every step into a deliberate decision. Her list stayed simple: arthritis relief, diabetic strips, maybe compression stockings. The bell chimed again. 2 uniformed officers entered, boots heavy, radios crackling. Officer Barrett strutted first, chest pushed out like a rooster, while Officer Lawson followed, eyes sweeping every corner with tense, erratic alertness. Evelyn barely noticed, digging in her purse for the thick envelope of clipped coupons. It was wedged between her worn wallet and old checkbook. She adjusted the strap, easing the envelope free with careful, practiced movements. As she sorted her categories, household, toiletries, medical, she felt eyes burning into her back. Looking up, she caught Barrett watching her with predatory focus. She swallowed, turned away, and continued slowly down the vitamin aisle, alone. Their footsteps echoed behind her, never more than an aisle away. Each time she glanced back, they hovered nearby, pretending to browse. The fine hairs at the nape of her neck prickled with creeping unease and dread. At the pharmacy counter, Evelyn passed her prescriptions to Mrs. Ramirez. "How's your Miguel doing?" she asked gently. "Still keeping out of trouble at school?" The older woman brightened. "He just made honor roll again." "Thanks. He still talks about you reading to his class." Before Evelyn replied, Barrett materialized at her elbow, badge catching the fluorescent light as he loomed closer. "Ma'am," he said sharply, "I need you to empty your purse." Evelyn's spine straightened, the same posture she'd used to quiet unruly classrooms. "I beg your pardon?" she said, voice calm but firm. "Empty your purse now," he ordered, tone clipped, brooking no hesitation or argument whatsoever. "I'll do no such thing," Evelyn replied, quiet but resolute. I've shopped here for decades. I won't be treated like a criminal." Customers paused, watching. Mrs. Ramirez froze behind the counter, prescription bag dangling mid-air. Lawson slid to Evelyn's other side, boxing her in. "Last chance," Barrett growled. "Unload it yourself, or we'll do it for you." Evelyn hugged the purse closer. "I know my rights. You've no cause to search." Lawson's hand shot out, clamping around her arm. His fingers dug through her cardigan into fragile flesh. "Don't make this harder than necessary," he warned. "Remove your hands from me," Evelyn snapped, teacher's authority ringing unmistakably. "I'm a retired educator, not some street criminal." Tyler stepped from an aisle, heart pounding. "Officers, there has to be a mistake. Mrs. Carter would never—" "Back off!" Barrett barked, making the young man flinch hard. Evelyn's heart hammered as she looked around at familiar faces, staring horrified. Mrs. Ramirez covered her mouth. A young mother near the baby aisle raised her phone, recording. An elderly man with a cane shook sadly. "This is completely unnecessary," Evelyn insisted, voice trembling but steady. "I have done absolutely nothing wrong." Barrett's expression darkened. His hand clamped her shoulder, whipping her around. He slammed her against a shelf of medical supplies. Boxes of bandages and cold medicine crashed to the floor. Gasps rippled through the store. Someone shouted, "Hey!" A child began sobbing. Evelyn's cheek pressed against cold metal as her arms were yanked cruelly behind. "People like you never learn," Barrett muttered, breath hot against her ear. Pain flared through her hip, where it smashed into the shelf's edge. Dignity wrestled with fear as she felt unforgiving cuffs closing around wrists. The handcuffs snapped shut, steel biting into thin skin. "We've got ourselves a dealer," Barrett announced loudly, voice booming. "Distribution of controlled substances." "That's absurd," Evelyn protested, shaking. "I'm here for my arthritis medication, nothing else." Barrett dragged her away from the shelf, spinning her to face the watching crowd. "They all say that," he sneered. "On the ground." "Please," Evelyn begged. "My hip." "I can't." He was already forcing her downward. His knee ground into her back as Lawson grabbed her legs. Pain exploded in her hip when they shoved her onto cold, sticky linoleum. Her cheek pressed to the floor, still faintly damp from the morning's mopping. "Someone help her!" Mrs. Ramirez cried. "She's been my customer for over 20 years." "Stay back," Lawson warned, raising a hand toward the growing crowd. "Police business." The young mother near vitamins filmed, hands shaking visibly. "This is wrong," she whispered. "She's just an old woman." Lawson lunged toward her. "Hand over the phone," he snapped, snatching it away. He spotted another customer recording and grabbed that device too, labeling them evidence. A third young woman near the entrance slid her phone into her shoe, slipping quietly out the door. Evelyn watched through watery eyes as Barrett hauled her upright. "Let's go, Grandma," he jeered, half dragging her toward sunlight. Her legs barely supported her. Each step sent jagged pain shooting through her hip as they marched her outside. Customers watched helplessly from the windows, while the officers shoved her into the back of their patrol car. "Dispatch, Unit 214, Barrett radioed, smirking. We've got a major arrest. Elderly female suspect caught distributing at Greenwood Pharmacy." Inside the cruiser, the air was suffocating, reeking of stale smoke and sweat-soaked vinyl upholstery. Evelyn sat rigid, refusing tears as they pulled away from the curb. Her wrists throbbed where the cuffs carved crescent moons. "Playing innocent won't help," Lawson said from the front seat. "We know all about your operation." Been dealing long? Barrett mocked. That sweet old lady act is clever cover. Evelyn stared straight ahead, hearing her mother's voice from decades before. Hold your head high when they try to break you. Never bow to cruelty. She'd survived segregation, open hatred, and years of quieter prejudice. Yet being treated like a criminal in her own neighborhood cut deeper. Not so talkative now, huh? Barrett laughed. That's fine. Evidence can speak loud enough. They pulled into the police station lot, tires bouncing over a pothole that sent fresh agony through her hip. Barrett yanked open the back door, roughly dragging her out. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed above bustling desks. A tall black woman in a sergeant's uniform looked up, eyes narrowing at Evelyn's disheveled appearance. "What's this?" Sergeant Naomi Harris demanded, stepping around her desk. "Drug bust at Greenwood," Barrett reported proudly. "Caught her red-handed, Sarge." "Evelyn Carter?" Harris's brows shot up. "The retired teacher?" Her gaze snapped to Barrett. "What evidence do you have?" "Tip about an elderly dealer," Lawson said. "Observed suspicious behavior." "Suspicious how?" Harris cut in sharply, unimpressed. "She was hiding items in her purse," Barrett insisted, making furtive movements. "My coupon envelope," Evelyn said, voice tired but dignified. "I was organizing coupons." Harris's jaw tightened as she eyed the cuffs, fury simmering quietly. "Remove those! Now!" "But Sergeant," Barrett started. "Now!" Her voice cracked like a whip. Barrett reluctantly unlocked them. Evelyn brought her hands forward slowly, rubbing raw wrists. "Evidence will speak," Barrett muttered. "Once we process her purse." "Which you seized without clear probable cause," Harris replied, eyes flashing. "Mrs. Carter, are you hurt? Do you need medical care?" "My hip," Evelyn admitted softly. "When they pushed me down." Harris's expression hardened like carved stone. "Officers, my office, now!" As they slunk away, she gently took Evelyn's arm. "Let's get you through intake," Harris said quietly. "I'm contacting a supervisor about this situation immediately." Evelyn nodded, exhausted. "Please," she whispered, "call my son." "Of course," Harris promised, supporting her weight. "We'll sort this out." Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Evelyn limped forward. Her carefully styled gray hair had loosened, cardigan smeared from the floor. Still, she kept her chin high. She taught generations to stand tall against injustice. Now it was her turn to live that lesson. Later, afternoon sunlight slanted through barred windows across the holding area. Evelyn sat on a hard bench, hands trembling softly. Not from fear, but from a deep ache spreading through her body. Her hip throbbed where they'd slammed her down, wrists ringed with angry red marks. Down the hall, Sergeant Harris studied the hastily written arrest report carefully. Her finger traced every inconsistency. The anonymous tip lacked documentation. Suspicious behavior was laughably vague. The timeline didn't match dispatch logs at all. "Officer Barrett," she called, voice like stone. "We need to talk." He swaggered in. Lawson followed, looking nervous. "Something wrong, Sarge?" Barrett asked. "This report is full of holes," Harris said, waving the papers. "You claim the tip came at 8 sharp, but dispatch has no record. Explain that discrepancy." "Probably clerical," Barrett shrugged. "Tip came through proper channels." "Oh, which channels?" Harris pressed. "Because records has nothing." Lawson shifted uneasily. Barrett smirked. "Look, we caught her with suspicious stuff. That's enough." "You checked nothing," Harris snapped back. "Coupons, prescriptions, That's your evidence? We know what we saw, Barrett insisted, face reddening. And Chief Lang backs us. Harris's eyes narrowed. Of course the chief was involved. She'd seen this pattern: bogus charges, missing documents, pressure. Get out, she ordered. Once they'd gone, Harris returned to the holding bench. Evelyn sat straight-backed, hands trembling, but posture dignified. Mrs. Carter, Harris said gently, taking a seat beside her, I need your emergency contact information. Is there someone I should call? My son, Evelyn replied. Marcus Carter. Harris's pen froze mid-stroke. The name hit like a thunderclap. Marcus Carter, FBI agent who'd investigated their department's civil rights abuses 4 years earlier. She testified for him then, watching crucial evidence vanish and witnesses recant after intimidation. I'll call him immediately, Harris promised, mind racing. This wasn't random. It was strategic. In Washington, D.C., Agent Marcus Carter faced a tactical map. He wrapped up a briefing on cartel routes along the border when his phone buzzed. Voicemail. Then again and again. Excuse me, he told his team, stepping into the hall, already irritated by the repeated alerts. 3 messages, same Greenwood number. His chest tightened as he played the first. Agent Carter, this is Sergeant Naomi Harris, Greenwood PD. Your mother, Evelyn, has been arrested on suspicious drug charges. Sir, I believe this is connected. Please return my call immediately. Marcus's jaw clenched. He remembered Harris, one of the few honest officers from his old corruption probe. If she was calling, things were bad. Meeting's over, he told his team, re-entering briskly. Jenkins, you've got surveillance. Family emergency. He was already dialing Harris as he headed for the parking garage. She answered on the first ring. Agent Carter, she said. What happened to my mother? His voice was controlled ice. Harris laid it out. The pharmacy, the tip, the chief's direct involvement. They're holding her with no real evidence, she finished. Chief Lang ordered it personally. Lang, the name conjured missing files, silenced witnesses, and a buried case. He'd nearly exposed a network centered on that man, kickbacks, profiling, tampered evidence. The investigation died suddenly. Now, an elderly black woman humiliated and held on flimsy charges. His mother targeted and hurt. The message was unmistakable. We remember. Back at the station, Evelyn winced, adjusting her position on the bench. Her hip felt aflame, but she refused to complain. They wouldn't see her break. Harris approached. Mrs. Carter, she said, they're moving you to a cell. Evelyn nodded, slowly pushing herself up using the bench arm. Each movement sent new waves of pain through her side. My son? She asked quietly. He's on his way, Harris assured her. Try to rest. I'll check soon. As 2 officers guided her down the corridor, Evelyn thought of Marcus. Brilliant and stubborn, shaped by justice. She'd never told him she'd discreetly kept copies of his old case files, something nudging her they might matter later. The cell door slammed behind her. Evelyn lowered herself onto the thin mattress, drawing slow breaths. Marcus was coming. She closed her eyes, summoning strength from decades of surviving and teaching others to stand against bullies. They'd chosen the wrong mother to intimidate. They'd forgotten gentle souls can forge the strongest steel. Miles away, Marcus settled into his airplane seat, jaw set. The flight attendant announced their departure for Greenwood Regional Airport, 3 tense hours. Fluorescent lights hummed on inside the station's administrative wing as night settled. Sergeant Harris sat at her desk, drafting release paperwork. Her pen moved steadily, documenting every failure of probable cause, every contradiction in the officer's claims. No contraband recovered, no independent witnesses confirming suspicion. Witness statements directly contradicting officer narrative, she murmured, building an airtight case for immediate release. The wall clock read 6:45 p.m. Most day shift officers had already filtered out wearily. Night staff prepared quietly for rounds. Harris glanced toward the cells, imagining Evelyn alone, hurting, separated from necessary medication. "Just a little longer, Mrs. Carter," she whispered, signing the final form with a firm, decisive flourish of pen. Peace shattered as Chief Victor Lang stormed through the door, heavy footsteps echoing. His pressed uniform fit like armor, authority radiating from each polished badge. "Harris," he barked, "what's this I hear about release paperwork for Carter?" Harris stood, gesturing toward her carefully assembled documents. "Sir, we lack probable cause. The arrest was mishandled." "Mishandled?" Lang scoffed. "Barrett and Lawson followed procedure. We had credible intel about prescription drug dealing." "With no documentation," she countered. "I searched every channel." "Because it's part of an ongoing investigation," Lang snapped. He snatched the paperwork, ripped it in half. "Then again! She stays. Pending narcotics analysis. That's an order." Night staff watched as he marched away, furious. Lang headed to the break room where Barrett and Lawson lounged. His voice carried through thin walls. "Outstanding work," he boomed. "This department rewards proactive policing. You saw suspicious behavior and you acted. That's exactly what we need here." Barrett basked under praise. Lawson looked queasy, but nodded. "Just doing our job, Chief," Barrett said smugly. "Keeping streets safe." Harris's hands clenched. She stepped into an empty interview room, pulling out her phone. Marcus needed this update immediately. He answered on the first ring. "I just landed," he said. "What now?" "Chief intervened," Harris replied. "Ordered your mother held overnight, claiming they're waiting on drug test." She lowered her voice. "Daniel, this feels orchestrated, not random. Barrett and Lawson weren't standard transfers. Their personnel files are locked tight. I recognized Barrett's name from your old notes." A cold pause followed. When Marcus spoke, his voice was steel. "Same network, same pattern. They're sending a warning." "Yes," Harris agreed, "and your mother's the message." "Keep her safe," Marcus said. "I'm heading to her house first. I'll be in touch." Across town, in a cramped bedroom, 25-year-old Kiara Moore sat cross-legged on her friend's bed. She replayed the silent video she'd captured at the pharmacy. Evelyn's calm defiance, the brutal takedown, the officers' faces clearly visible. "You have to post it," her friend Brianne insisted. "People need to see what really happened." Kiara shook her head. "You saw what happened to other witnesses. They'll come after me. Maybe I send it anonymously to the news." But she remembered Barrett's threat. Filming could count as interfering with an investigation, dangerous territory. "Think about your family," Brianna whispered. Kiara tucked her phone away, hugging her knees. "I need to think," she murmured. "Do this right." The holding cells quieted as night deepened. Most detainees were released or transferred elsewhere. Evelyn lay on the thin cot, one hand pressed over her burning hip. The bruise there felt hot and swollen, but she refused to cry out. They wouldn't get that satisfaction from her tonight. Instead, she prayed softly, for herself, for Marcus racing toward her, for Harris fighting inside a broken system, even for the young officers whose souls had twisted under power and prejudice. "Lord, give us strength," she whispered. "Give justice." Night staff made rounds, footsteps echoing on concrete floors. Evelyn heard other inmates shifting, some sobbing quietly, others calling out. She thought of her former students. How many had she urged to resist bullies and believe themselves worthy? Now she had to live every lesson she'd preached. On the highway, Marcus gripped his rental's steering wheel, skimming the speed limit. Exit signs flashed past, 60 miles to Greenwood, then 50, then less. Same road he'd driven years earlier. His mother's face filled his mind, gentle strength, unshakable sense of right. She'd raised him alone after his father died, juggling jobs in college. She taught him justice wasn't just laws, it was standing up, regardless of personal cost. Tonight, she paid that cost, lying in a cell because corrupt men wanted leverage. His jaw clenched as another sign approached, 40 miles to Greenwood. "Hold on, Mom," he whispered. "I'm coming." Fluorescent lights kept buzzing over the station. Evelyn shifted again, searching for any position that eased the ache. Through a small window, she saw a thin slice of stars. Somewhere beyond those, her son was closing in, bringing a reckoning these men never anticipated at all. Just before midnight, Marcus's rental pulled into the dimly lit station lot. The building's harsh glow cut bright rectangles into the darkness. He killed the engine and sat a moment, staring at the doorway where they'd dragged his mother. His phone buzzed. Text from Harris. "South lot, behind dumpsters." Marcus found her waiting in patchy shadows, dark uniform blending with night. Her face was tight with worry as she scanned the lot for cameras and possible observers. "We have to move fast," Harris whispered. "There are blind spots, but Lang's eyes are everywhere." "Tell me everything," Marcus said. She unfolded a paper. The anonymous tip was disturbingly specific. They knew she'd be at the pharmacy today. They described her blue cardigan, tan slacks, even her usual parking spot, and silver 2016 sedan. That information only comes from locals who've watched her for years. And the tip came through internal channels, not the public line, she added. Inside, Barrett and Lawson stood at the evidence counter. Barrett held a small plastic bag of white pills, smirk curling his mouth. "Log this under Carter," he told the tired clerk. "It discovered during initial search. Obviously. Chain of custody, intact." Lawson shifted, looking sick but silent as Barrett deposited the planted evidence. "What's wrong, Trent?" Barrett taunted. "Losing your nerve? Remember what the chief said, cleaning up these streets." "Yeah," Lawson muttered, eyes fixed anywhere else but there. Back in the lot, Marcus studied Harris's printout under the weak security light. "Evidence submission logged before the arrest time," he muttered. Harris nodded. "They're cocky. They think nobody will challenge them." "They haven't dealt with me," he answered. "Be careful," Harris warned. "They're not just corrupt, they're cornered. Cornered people get dangerous." A car door slammed somewhere nearby. Both stiffened. "Go," she said. "I'll keep checking on your mother. Whatever you do, don't show your full hand." Marcus nodded, slipping back to his car. Minutes later, he drove away, heading toward his mother's modest house on Oak Street. The two-story home sat dark and still, exactly as she'd left it that morning before everything shattered. He unlocked the front door with his spare key. Lemon polish and yesterday's dinner lingered in the air. He moved through rooms silently, half-finished crossword on the table, grandfather clock ticking, family photos crowding warm-colored walls everywhere. Her presence clung to every corner, making her absence feel violently wrong. In the living room, he paused before the mantel, studying a photo of Evelyn surrounded by her final class of students before retirement, children beaming. Their bright faces glowed around their beloved teacher. Marcus swallowed hard, imagining her now lying on a jail cot, hip throbbing from their assault. The same woman who'd raised him alone and never surrendered her belief in justice. The grandfather clock chimed midnight, deep notes rolling through the house. Marcus moved to the bedroom. The bed was neatly made, reading glasses resting beside a well-worn Bible. A sticky note marked a page in worn Psalms. Psalm 37:6. He will make your righteous reward shine like the dawn, your vindication like the noonday sun. Marcus touched the note, drawing strength from his mother's stubborn faith. He would need every ounce of it in coming days. Back in the dining room, he cleared space on the wall, moving aside decades of classroom photos. One by one, he pinned documents, connecting them with red thread. Photos of Barrett and Lawson, copies of complaints, scribbled timelines everywhere. Witness reports of elderly black residents arrested while picking up medicine, then quietly released. Financial notes on a shady rehab facility, internal memos Harris had shared. At the center, he pinned his mother's booking photo, defiant even there. Officers targeted seniors, planting evidence, coercing them into costly treatment programs, profiting from fear and silence. The pattern crystallized on the wall. Outside, a patrol car crept past for the third time that hour. They were watching, waiting, threatening silently. Marcus had learned patience from years in federal investigations. He'd gather evidence carefully, piece by piece, until their empire collapsed. The dining room, once a gallery of happy class pictures, now displayed Greenwood's rot in stark detail. Each pinned document, each photograph, each string line brought him closer to exposing the conspiracy and freeing his mother. Night deepened. Marcus stayed at the wall, scribbling notes, drawing new connections. The truth was there, buried in patterns. He just had to prove it before they buried the evidence and Evelyn's name for good. At dawn, a message pinged his secure email. I have proof of what they did. Meet me at Oak Grove Park, 8 a.m., alone. Marcus arrived early, parking where he could watch every entrance to the small playground. Morning air smelled of wet grass. A few joggers passed without noticing him. He sat on a worn bench, scanning faces, pulse steady, but hard. At exactly 8, a young woman in a navy hoodie approached, glancing over her shoulder. She looked around 27, dark circles under her eyes. Agent Carter? She asked, keeping the distance. He showed his credentials and nodded carefully. I'm Rachel, she said, settling on the opposite end. Hands trembling, she pulled out her phone. I was there when they arrested Mrs. Carter. She taught me in 4th grade. I couldn't stand what they did. She opened a video file. I hid my phone in my shoe when that officer started grabbing devices. I couldn't let them erase everything. Marcus watched, jaw tightening. The footage was sharp, capturing Evelyn calmly, organizing coupons quietly. Barrett and Lawson approached without cause, aggression escalating instantly when she questioned them. The audio was clear. Taunts, accusations, Evelyn's dignity, even while they hurt her. Would you swear a statement? Marcus asked. Rachel nodded, though fear flickered. She spent 30 years helping kids here, Rachel whispered. Somebody has to protect her now. Marcus backed up the video to multiple encrypted drives. This is what we needed, he said, By mid-morning, he delivered everything to Internal Affairs. The response came fast. Before noon, Barrett and Lawson were pulled in and placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Word spread through Greenwood like wildfire. On his drive to the station, Marcus saw people gathering with handwritten signs. Justice for Evelyn Carter. Stop targeting our elders. Outside Greenwood Pharmacy, neighbors clustered on sidewalks, murmuring. At the station, officers exchanged uneasy glances. For the first time, the old narrative, police unquestioned, victims disbelieved, wavered under growing scrutiny. Local news blasted breaking alerts. Social feeds filled with side-by-side images. Evelyn reading to children, Evelyn in handcuffs. Comments poured in. Some had doubted her, but the video shattered doubts. You could see everything. No edits, no excuses. Outside the police station, voices rose in chants. No more planting, no more lies. Protect our seniors. Harris watched from an upstairs window, relief washing over her. For once, truth hadn't vanished quietly into a locked evidence room. Marcus stepped from his car, watching the crowd swell. Signs bobbed, faces determined. He thought of his mother sitting in a cold cell, unaware the town she'd served for decades was finally standing beside her, not against her. Inside, Chief Lang barked orders, insisting everything was standard procedure. But his bluster couldn't quiet the noise building outside. With Rachel's footage, Harris's records, and Marcus's investigation, the first cracks had appeared in Greenwood's carefully manufactured facade. And as the morning wore on, those cracks only widened. The community had seen the truth with their own eyes. The story of a retired teacher turned dealer was unraveling fast, and the people weren't buying the lie anymore. Evelyn still sat behind bars, hip-aching, hands clasped in prayer. But beyond concrete walls, her name was being cleared in real time. This fight wasn't over, but for the first time, justice had stepped into the light. Respect our teachers. Stop police abuse. Free Mrs. C. The chants rolled louder as the crowd swelled, voices blending into one relentless demand for Evelyn's freedom and accountability. Inside the station, Marcus found Sergeant Naomi Harris at a desk, finishing release forms, a small, satisfied smile tugging at her mouth. Your video evidence was devastating, she said quietly, almost pleased. Chief Lang scrambling. County commissioners are suddenly very interested. When Evelyn appeared from holding, she walked slowly, but upright. Marcus steadied her, noticing every flinch from her bruised hip, though her gaze stayed fierce. Thank you, Naomi, she told Harris softly, for choosing to be one of the good ones. The sergeant squeezed her hand. I'm just sorry I couldn't stop it sooner, Mrs. Carter. Outside, the crowd erupted into cheers. Evelyn blinked rapidly as she recognized faces. Former students, parents, old colleagues, people from 4 decades of teaching, all packed together to welcome her back and demand justice. Mrs. Carter! Rachel pushed through the bodies, no longer hiding in the back. I'm so glad you're okay. Evelyn opened her arms, pulling her into a hug. My brave Rachel, she whispered, voice thick. You always spoke up when something was wrong, even in 4th grade. Rachel wiped her eyes. You taught me that, Mrs. Carter. You showed us what courage actually looks like when it matters. The ride home was quiet. Evelyn rested her head against the window as familiar streets drifted past. Her little house looked unchanged, garden still thirsty, neighbor's mail neatly stacked on her porch. Marcus helped her inside, made her favorite tea just right, laid out her evening pills, hovering more than he'd admit. She insisted on sitting in the kitchen a while, reacquainting herself with safety. "I knew you'd come," she said, softly patting his hand. "In that cell, I just kept thinking, my boy will put this right." Marcus's jaw tightened, anger barely leashed. "They never should have laid a hand on you," he said. "But it's done. You're home." As evening draped Greenwood, Evelyn finally confessed she needed sleep. Marcus guided her carefully up the stairs. Fresh sheets and familiar pillows waited. She slipped into her favorite nightgown while he drew the curtains and turned down the covers. "My good son," she murmured as he tucked the blanket, "always looking out for your mama." Marcus kissed her forehead, inhaling lavender soap. "Get some rest, Mom. I'll be right downstairs if you need anything at all." She closed her eyes gratefully. First time in 2 days, she settled into her own mattress. Outside, crickets sang under her window, a gentle soundtrack wiping away the metallic echoes of the jail's fluorescent hum. She was home. She was safe. And for the first time since that awful morning, the machinery of justice was finally starting to creak in her favor instead of crushing her. Early Thursday, Marcus sat at Evelyn's dining table, buried in paperwork. Coffee steamed beside piles of documents, still shots from Rachel's video, written witness statements, the disciplinary files Harris had provided quietly. Sunlight slanted across his notes as he drafted a detailed complaint. Upstairs, Evelyn still slept deeply, finally getting proper rest. Birds chirped outside, sounding almost too peaceful for everything that had happened. Officers Barrett and Lawson engaged in clear misconduct and unnecessary force during the unlawful arrest of Evelyn Carter, age 76, he typed. Language clinical, professional, even with his mother's name on screen. Video evidence demonstrates zero probable cause for initiating contact. His phone buzzed. Text from Harris. "Internal affairs arriving at 9. They want everything you've got." Marcus tightened his focus, refining timelines, connecting every pattern. He wove in other seniors' testimonies, painting a chilling picture of systematic harassment. At 8:30, he heard Evelyn's bedroom door creak open. "Marcus," she called gently. "Down here, Mom. Want breakfast upstairs?" "I'll come down," she insisted. "Need to move these old bones." He listened to her careful steps, noticing how the injured hip had turned her usual steady gait into something slower, more deliberate, but still determined. When she reached the doorway, she wore pressed slacks and a soft powder blue sweater, one of her teacher outfits. "You didn't need to dress up," Marcus said. "Today should be a rest day, Mom." Evelyn shook her head, easing into a chair. "They won't shove me into hiding in a nightgown," she said. "I have dignity." Marcus fixed toast, eggs, and her morning meds, setting the plate gently. As she ate, he explained the internal affairs meeting. "They're taking this seriously," he assured her. "Rachel's footage leaves no wiggle room." Evelyn nodded slowly. "This isn't just about me," she murmured. "Those men need to learn they can't treat anyone like that. Not ever again." At 9 precisely, 2 IA investigators arrived. Captain Reynolds, graying and sharp-eyed, and Lieutenant Torres, younger but equally focused. They sat up at the dining table reviewing footage and forms. "The video alone is devastating," Reynolds said, replaying the takedown. "Clear, unjustified force against an elderly civilian." Torres flipped through buried complaints, frowning. "And this fits a long-standing pattern," Torres added. "Multiple profiling and force complaints, mysteriously buried." "All shielded by Lang," Marcus said. For 2 hours they combed through everything. Evelyn eventually retreated to the living room. The constant questions wore her out, though she never complained. Finally, Reynolds closed his laptop. "This is strong," he said. "We're launching a full investigation. Barrett and Lawson remain suspended while we dig into Chief Lang." Marcus walked them to the door, feeling real relief for the first time in days. Around noon, Harris called with cautious optimism. "Word spreading," she said. "Officers are privately distancing themselves from Barrett and Lawson now. Some are terrified of going down with them." "Good," Marcus replied. "Maybe courage will prove contagious." Throughout the afternoon, neighbors arrived with food: casseroles, soups, bread, small offerings that felt like enormous declarations of solidarity. Mrs. Johnson brought famous chicken soup. Mr. Baker, whose daughter Evelyn had taught decades earlier, delivered lasagna. Each person expressed outrage, support, and relief that truth was finally gaining ground after years of whispered rumors. Evelyn insisted on sitting on the front porch, wrapped in a shawl, greeting everyone personally. Her presence soothed them. Their beloved teacher was home, healing, and refusing to hide. Greenwood was rallying around her. "Look at this fridge," she marveled as Marcus stacked leftovers. "We won't cook for a month." By evening, Marcus felt genuine hope. He warmed soup, and they ate together at the same kitchen table. "Reminds me of when you were little," Evelyn said, smiling. "You'd do homework there while I cooked." "You gave me food and quiet," Marcus replied. "Now it's my turn to look after you." After dinner, he checked the refrigerator. "We're low on milk and bread," he said. "I should hit the store." "I'll be fine," Evelyn assured him. "Mrs. Johnson's right next door, and I'm stronger today." Marcus grabbed his keys, kissed her cheek. "Just grabbing basics. I'll be quick." "Drive carefully," she called. The evening breeze smelled like blooming dogwoods. For a moment, the errand felt blissfully ordinary. He pulled away, not knowing that fragile peace was seconds from shattering again. At 11 p.m. he returned, grocery bags rustling. Porch light glowed. He climbed the steps, already thinking about sleep and tomorrow's planning. His phone rang. Harris. "They've reversed everything," she blurted. "The IA reviewer resigned an hour ago. Lang just declared the footage compromised. Barrett and Lawson are reinstated." Marcus froze, key hovering at the lock. "That's impossible," he snapped. "We have multiple copies. Witnesses?" Headlights flooded the driveway. 3 cruisers screeched in, lights blazing. Officers spilled out with weapons drawn. "Naomi, they're here," Marcus said. "At my mother's house." "Daniel, listen!" Harris's voice cut off as Lawson knocked the phone from his hand. "Federal agent," Marcus called, reaching for ID. "This is a private residence." "We've got a warrant," Barrett said, waving papers smugly. "Step aside." Officers pushed past. Evelyn appeared at the top of the stairs in her nightgown, clutching the railing. "What's happening?" she asked, voice shaking. "Stay upstairs, Mom," Marcus yelled, moving instinctively toward her. 2 officers blocked him. "Mrs. Carter, we need you downstairs," Barrett called. "We're seizing evidence." "You have no authority," Marcus started. "We have every authority," Chief Victor Lang said, stepping in, satisfaction gleaming in his eyes. "Your files are now evidence of obstruction. Your mother's charges are upgraded to distribution." Officers ransacked the dining room, sweeping Marcus's carefully mapped board into boxes. His laptop disappeared into an evidence bag without hesitation. "Marcus," Evelyn whispered weakly. He turned and saw her sway. He shoved past officers as her knees buckled, catching her before she crashed down. Her face was gray, breathing shallow and fast, eyes unfocused with shock. "I need an ambulance," he shouted. "Now!" Lang nodded, and someone radioed EMS. Marcus cradled his mother on the stairs while drawers slammed, closets ripped open. "You'll answer for this," he told Lang flatly. "Careful, Agent Carter," Lang said coldly. "Threatening law enforcement is serious." Paramedics arrived quickly, lifting Evelyn onto a stretcher. Marcus rushed to gather her medications. Barrett intercepted him, scooping pill bottles into an evidence bag. "She needs those," Marcus protested. "She'll receive appropriate care," Lang replied smoothly. "We can't have controlled substances walking out." Marcus followed the stretcher, arguing in the driveway as neighbors emerged, wide-eyed in pajamas and robes. Mrs. Johnson stood on her porch, hand covering her mouth. "You can ride with her," a paramedic said, "but we've got to roll." Marcus climbed into the ambulance, gripping Evelyn's cold hand as sirens wailed. Through the back window, he watched officers carrying boxes of his evidence to squad cars like trophies. At the hospital, doctors rushed Evelyn into a treatment room while Marcus paced the waiting area, fists clenched. Harris texted updates. IA reviewer gone. Everything sealed under Lang's orders. The investigation declared tainted. Barrett and Lawson reinstated effective immediately. It was an orchestrated counterstrike, perfectly timed and ruthlessly executed from the top down. After what felt like forever, a physician approached. "Your mother's stable," she said. She experienced a severe panic response with worrying cardiac symptoms. Given her age and history, we're keeping her overnight for observation. "Can I see her?" Marcus asked. Evelyn lay small and pale amid beeping monitors, IV trailing from her arm. Her eyes fluttered open as he took her hand. "I'm sorry," she whispered faintly. "Don't you dare apologize," Marcus said. "None of this is on you." "My medicine," she murmured. "We'll get fresh prescriptions," he promised. "Just focus on resting." She drifted off, exhaustion finally winning the battle. Marcus sank into the chair beside her, mind racing. The speed of Lang's counterattack confirmed it. This network was deep, well-protected, and terrifyingly practiced at burying threats. But they'd overreached touching his mother this time. Machines beeped steadily in the dim room. New worry lines etched across Evelyn's sleeping face. She'd spent a lifetime building trust, teaching kids, holding communities together, and now lay here because power-drunk men marked her disposable. A nurse checked vitals, adjusting the IV. Outside, hints of dawn crept into the sky. Marcus hadn't slept, simmering anger sharpening into something colder, more focused. They'd shown exactly how far they'd go to protect themselves. They'd underestimated how far he'd go in return. He wouldn't fight on their turf anymore. He'd take this to people they couldn't threaten, couldn't bribe, couldn't control with local favors and fear. Sunlight leaked through thin curtains as Marcus shifted stiffly in the chair. He'd spent the night half dozing, eyes flicking between monitors and the hallway. Evelyn stirred as a nurse checked her morning readings gently. "How are you feeling, Mrs. Carter?" the nurse asked. "A little better," Evelyn answered, voice quiet but steady. When they were alone again, Marcus leaned forward. "Doctor says you might go home later today." Evelyn squeezed his fingers. "There's something I have to tell you," she said, gathering strength. "Something I've hidden for years." Marcus straightened. "What is it, Mom?" "Your old case," she said. "The one they buried. When they forced you away from Greenwood, when files disappeared, I saved something." Marcus's heart kicked. "Saved what?" "A flash drive. With all your documents. The money trails, emails, everything." Her voice grew stronger with conviction. When they started destroying your work, I knew I had to protect it. Marcus dragged a hand through his hair. Mom, those files were sensitive. If they'd found them, I'm your mother, she said simply. I wasn't going to watch them break you and erase the truth. Where is it? He asked. At home, she answered. In my old biscuit tin, the one with roses under the false bottom panel. She gave precise directions. I kept it for years, waiting for the right time. Her energy faded. Rest, Marcus said. I'll be back soon. He kissed her forehead and hurried toward the elevator. The morning air outside was bright and cool. At Evelyn's house, yellow tape still crisscrossed the front door. Marcus ducked under it, stepping into chaos. Drawers yanked open, cushions overturned, papers scattered like confetti. He went straight to her bedroom. The antique dresser was untouched. Pulling out the bottom drawer, he found the tin exactly where she'd promised. His hands trembled slightly as he lifted the false panel cautiously. The flash drive lay wrapped in tissue. He sat heavily on the bed, staring. 5 years earlier, he'd been building a case against Greenwood PD, finding selective enforcement, altered evidence, shady finances, before politics cut him off. His work was supposedly purged, but Evelyn, quiet and stubborn, had preserved the most explosive pieces. He plugged the drive into his phone. File names popped up. Spreadsheets, emails, photos, memos. His old investigation resurrected. Spreadsheets tracked suspicious payments. Emails discussed quotas and target demographics. Photos showed officers meeting with rehab executives and private detention reps. Over and over, Chief Victor Lang's name appeared. Signatures, approvals, consulting arrangements. The scope was staggering. The department had systematically hunted vulnerable residents, especially older black citizens, to feed a pipeline of for-profit treatment and supervision. Lang and his allies skimmed money at every step carefully. Financials showed shell companies funneling kickbacks from rehab centers, posing as community grants and consulting fees. Combined with the pharmacy video and fresh witness statements, the scheme looked less like corruption and more like conspiracy. Marcus pocketed the drive and headed out. His phone rang. Harris. They're trying to move your mom's case to county court, she said. Lang's pushing for quick arraignment. Let them, Marcus replied. I'm going above them. Be careful, Harris warned. He's calling in favors, trying to block outside eyes. His reach stops where I'm taking this, Marcus said. Stay alert. Tell me if anything shifts. He drove back to the hospital focused. Evelyn was sitting up, looking stronger. Her breakfast sat half-finished. Did you find it? She asked. Marcus tapped his pocket. You kept everything, he said softly. Every document, every spreadsheet. He clasped her hand gratefully. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I was protecting you, she answered. They'd already damaged your career once. I needed to know it would truly matter before risking it. Her eyes were clear, resolute. When they arrested me, when I saw those same men still hurting people, I knew the time finally came. Marcus leaned close, voice low. Everything's about to change, he whispered. You just handed me the key. They won't hide from this. Evelyn's fingers tightened around his. Sunlight warmed her face. For the first time since the arrest, a small, fierce smile returned. The one that had cowed countless misbehaving students. The tiny flash drive in his pocket could dismantle years of abuse. Her quiet bravery in preserving it would bring justice not only for her, but for every victim. Greenwood's system had swallowed silently. Marcus stepped into the hall, pacing to a quiet corner near an exit door. He pulled out his phone, thumb hovering over a number he hadn't dialed in years, reserved for the worst civil rights cases. He called. After 2 rings, a familiar voice answered. "Special Agent Teresa Martinez." "Martinez, it's Marcus Carter," he said. "I need Civil Rights Task Force eyes on Greenwood. Remember the case they buried years back?" "Ellison. Carter now," she corrected herself. Paper rustled. "What changed?" "Everything," Marcus said. He outlined Evelyn's arrest, the planted evidence, the targeted senior victims, and most importantly, the resurrected files. "We've got the whole pipeline on record." "Send it," she said. Marcus connected his laptop via secure hotspot, uploading the worst pieces first. Payment logs, emails about quotas, meeting photos. He watched progress bars crawl while hearing her muttered reactions through the line. "Good Lord," she breathed. "This is bigger than the original probe." He added Rachel's video and statements. "They brutalized my mother without cause, then tried to erase everything. This isn't just dirty policing, it's organized exploitation." More voices joined her side of the call. DOJ officials whispering terms like systemic and coordinated conspiracy. After nearly half an hour, Martinez came back. "We're authorizing federal action," she said. "Task force moves at dawn tomorrow. Keep this off local radar. We need surprise." "Understood," Marcus replied. He sent a secure message to Harris. "Federal team arriving 0500. Trust only your cleanest people." Her answer pinged seconds later. "Copy. We'll be ready." Martinez added, "We'll file immediate motions to drop your mother's charges the moment we seize control. Until then, keep her safe and quiet." Ending the call, Marcus returned to Evelyn's room, where lunch trays had arrived. "Everything okay?" she asked, reading his face. "Better than okay," he said, taking her hand. "DOJ is coming at dawn. Lang, Barrett, Lawson, they'll never see it coming. Your charges will vanish with them." Tears brightened Evelyn's eyes. "All these years watching them hurt people, feeling helpless," she whispered. "You weren't helpless," Marcus said. "You were guarding the truth until someone could finally use it." A nurse entered, checking vitals. Marcus stepped aside, scanning secure messages from Harris. She was lining up trusted officers for the morning raid, quietly signaling who should cooperate, who should be kept unarmed, and out of the way completely. Across town, Chief Lang lounged in his office, savoring a drink. He'd smashed the internal investigation, kept his officers, and taught that meddling agent a lesson. In his mind, he'd proven himself untouchable again. He mentally counted forthcoming rehab referrals, planning another quarterly payout. The system he'd built fed him money and power. As far as he knew, the danger had passed, buried under intimidation and forged memos. That night, Marcus stayed beside Evelyn's bed, watching the sun burn down to embers through the hospital window. They talked about old students and silly classroom memories until she grew drowsy from medication. "Sleep," he said, fixing her pillows. "Tomorrow will be different. I promise." "I believe you," she whispered. "This time, the truth's too big to bury." After she slept, his phone buzzed with task force confirmation. Just before dawn, black SUVs and tactical vans rolled quietly through Greenwood streets, lights off, engines low. They surrounded the police station with practiced efficiency, like shadows settling around a rotten core ready to crack. Outside an armored vehicle, Martinez checked her watch. 4:59, she murmured into her radio. "All units report ready." Affirmations crackled in reply. Inside, Harris had ensured only trustworthy officers held the overnight shift. At exactly 5, Martinez gave the order. Execute! Agents shattered the quiet, bursting in through multiple entrances. Federal agents? Don't move! Officers on duty, already briefed by Harris, raised their hands and complied quickly. Dispatch froze. An agent secured radios, preventing warning calls. Martinez led the team toward the locker room, where Barrett and Lawson had just arrived, halfway into their uniforms, still joking about yesterday's win. The door slammed open. Hands where we can see them. Agent stormed in. Barrett reached reflexively toward his locker, but a tackle flattened him against cold tile. Lawson went statue still, color draining from his face. Officers Cole Barrett and Trent Lawson, Martinez said, voice ringing, "You're under arrest for civil rights violations, conspiracy, falsifying reports, and more." Cuffs snapped closed. Their badges clattered to the floor, stripped of borrowed authority. Across town, another team surrounded Lang's suburban home. Motion sensors triggered. Inside, Lang scrambled, grabbing a briefcase stuffed with documents, bolting out the back door in pajamas and slippers, thinking he had one last escape route. Agents stepped from the shadows, guns leveled. "Federal agents! Freeze!" Lang skidded to a halt, briefcase spilling papers across wet grass, financial records he'd tried to smuggle out. An agent forced him to his knees. "Chief Victor Lang," the lead agent announced, "you're under arrest for corruption, conspiracy, obstruction, and civil rights violations." Handcuffed in the dew, Lang finally realized the empire he'd built on fear was collapsing. Back at the station, Harris guided agents to file rooms, servers, and hidden drawers where she knew skeletons lived. Officers who'd been terrified before now stepped forward, describing Lang's orders and the threats he'd made. "He made us target certain neighborhoods," one young officer confessed. "Told us if we didn't meet his numbers, we'd lose our jobs, or worse." The sun rose over Greenwood as news vans converged outside the station. Helicopters hovered above. Live feeds showed black SUVs and agents moving in and out. Anchors breathlessly reported federal raids on Greenwood PD and related properties, hinting at a massive civil rights investigation finally breaking open. Cameras captured Barrett and Lawson being marched out in shackles, now fully dressed but powerless. They kept their eyes down as flashes popped. The same men who'd mocked Evelyn now looked small and afraid. Lang appeared next, loaded into a federal vehicle, his usual polished demeanor gone. His shoulders sagged as he realized this wasn't another scare he could bluff through. This was the end of his reign. In Evelyn's hospital room, Marcus watched everything on the wall-mounted TV. Evelyn sat up, clutching his hand as the reporter said, "After years of allegations, federal agents have arrested multiple Greenwood officers on civil rights charges. Sources report a pattern of targeting elderly black residents." Tears spilled down Evelyn's cheeks as Lang's perp walk filled the screen. "All those people he hurt," she whispered. "All those families living with scars." "They'll have their day," Marcus said. "Every one of them." The camera cut to Harris giving a brief statement. "Now, acting chief," she promised full cooperation and a rebuilt department worthy of Greenwood's trust. As hours passed, more officers came forward. DOJ attorneys collected statements about quotas, kickbacks, and threats. The conspiracy unraveled faster than anyone expected, each confession dragging more hidden rot into the sunlight. Evelyn dabbed her eyes. "I never thought I'd see this," she said. "When they cuffed me, I felt so powerless." You were never powerless, Marcus replied. You were stronger than all of them. Together, they watched boxes of evidence carried out, old files, computer towers, seized bank records. A newscrawler announced that all charges against Evelyn Carter and dozens of other victims were being dropped immediately as tainted. By afternoon, the sun warmed Evelyn's cheeks as Marcus wheeled her out of the hospital. Her bruises had started to fade, but the quiet strength in her posture glowed brighter than ever. "Community center?" she asked, noticing the route. "Just briefly," Marcus said. "Some people want to see you." The parking lot was overflowing, cars lining the grass. A crowd waited, many holding homemade signs. "Welcome home, Mrs. Carter," one read. "Justice won," another declared. "What is this?" Evelyn asked. "Greenwood showing its heart," Marcus answered. Inside, the main hall was packed with familiar faces rising to their feet. Former students, parents, fellow teachers, all standing, applauding thunderously as Evelyn rolled in. At the front, Harris now wore a temporary chief's badge. Beside her sat DOJ officials and local leaders, faces grave yet hopeful. A dignified woman from DOJ stepped to the mic. "Good afternoon. I'm Karen Walsh from the Civil Rights Division," she began. "We're here not just to celebrate justice, but to apologize for its delay." She turned directly toward Evelyn. "Mrs. Carter, what happened to you was a profound abuse of power. Your dignity has inspired reforms that'll protect countless others. On behalf of the government, I'm sorry." Evelyn dabbed tears as Walsh continued. "We're launching a Senior Citizens Protection Initiative, federal oversight for cases involving older residents. Additionally, Mrs. Carter will receive a settlement of $500,000 for the harm she endured." Applause shook the room. Walsh beckoned someone from the crowd. A young woman rose nervously, Rachel, wearing a small DOJ pin. Evelyn wheeled forward to hug her, even before Walsh finished her introduction. "Rachel Moore showed remarkable bravery," Walsh said. "Without her quick thinking, this case might have vanished. Today, we present her with the Civilian Justice Award." Rachel accepted the plaque. "I just did what she taught me," she said. In third grade, she said, "Stand up for what's right, even scared." Fresh tears flowed as Evelyn hugged her again. The ceremony shifted into celebration. Reforms announced, committees formed, future safeguards promised with real enforcement. Days later, on a calm Sunday, Evelyn walked into Greenwood Pharmacy again. This time, honored, protected, and unafraid. I hope you loved her story. Hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I've handpicked 2 more stories I know you'll enjoy waiting right here for you. Click one, settle in with your favorite drink, and as always, have an amazing day. Dignity does not expire with age. If you're in your 60s or 70s, you know what it feels like to be overlooked, talked over by a hurried clerk, dismissed by a doctor who barely makes eye contact, treated as if your time and your story no longer matter. Evelyn Carter's humiliation in that pharmacy cuts so deeply because many of us have tasted smaller versions of that same disrespect. To be shoved, handcuffed, and called a dealer while simply picking up arthritis medicine is more than a bad encounter. It's a slap at every year she spent teaching children, paying taxes, singing in church, and holding her community together. Her story reminds us that our gray hair does not make us invisible, and that mistreating an elder is not just rude. It is a moral offense against everything this country claims to value about family, service, and respect. Courage grows stronger when we stand together. Older Americans have lived through seasons when you had to choose between keeping your head down and speaking up. In Evelyn's case, courage was not a solo act. Sergeant Naomi Harris risked her career by challenging bogus charges from inside the department. Rachel, the former student, hid her phone in her shoe and captured the truth when everyone else was being silenced. Neighbors brought casseroles, stood outside the station with signs, and refused to let Evelyn's name be dragged through the mud. For those of us who remember block clubs, church committees, and neighbors watching each other's kids, this feels familiar. When ordinary people link arms, even the most untouchable officials can be brought to their knees. Justice can be slow, but it still moves. By the time the federal task force arrived at dawn, many in Evelyn's generation might have already given up hope. After all, we have seen investigations stall, promises fade, and headlines move on. But Evelyn did something simple and powerful years earlier. She quietly saved her son's case files, trusting that truth would matter someday. That small act of faith, combined with her son's persistence and a community that refused to look away, turned a corrupt system upside down. For those of us who have outlived so many disappointments, her story is a reminder. Justice may limp, pause, and detour. But if we keep standing, keep telling the truth, and keep protecting the evidence, it can still arrive in time to change lives. Friends, after walking through Evelyn Carter's journey, from humiliation on that pharmacy floor to justice finally knocking on the doors of power, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever seen an older person treated unfairly just because of their age, their race, or the neighborhood they live in? If you were standing there that day in Greenwood Pharmacy, what do you think you would have done? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Hit like. If this story moved you, and please subscribe so you don't miss the next lesson we share together.